Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 257 of the Board Game Barbecue, brought to you by Advent Games and our wonderful Patreons. This is Mike today hosting, and I'm joined here by a couple fellow Aussies. I've got in the left corner, Conor. How you doing, bud?
Am I in the left corner? It's hard.
You're in the left
I'm
corner
right.
on my screen.
Right, okay, yes. I'm here, and I do
Yeah.
know my left from right, although, recently I've been a little bit turned about. So, yeah, no, good. Good to see you, Mike. I feel like we've had a couple on.
I've seen you a bit more often lately.
Yeah.
It's been lovely.
Yeah. It's like when the teachers, start sitting you together in, seating plans. It's like,
Is that because we're the naughty boys? Is that what's happening?
We're the fun ones. We're the fun ones.
I prefer that terminology as well. To the right corner, we have a returning guest today, another fellow Aussie who's not currently in Australia, I don't believe. We have Matt Dunstan. Welcome, mate.
Hello, I am actually in Australia. I've moved back to Australia now. I'm in Newcastle right now. Yes.
Welcome back.
Newcastle, Prague, they're pretty much the same thing, let's face it.
Yeah, definitely. Both large country towns, that's... yes.
It's absolutely wonderful to have you back, mate.
No, thank you for having me. A pleasure to be back.
It's been I was having a look, nearly 2 years, I think.
Yeah,
or it was 2021, definitely.
I was looking at it today. So I think it was November 2021. That's how long ago it was.
A few small world events have happened since, I guess, so...
Little ones.
So some things have changed for me. I've moved to Australia in the meantime, so it's and other bits and pieces. But but we still all are here for games, and that's the main thing.
Absolutely. That's what it's all about. And the good thing is about 2 year gap in between is that there's no reason you wouldn't have done your oath. So we'll get to that later. But that's good to know. That's good to know, and having the background there. But
I'm only a little bit worried. It's okay.
It's okay. You don't have to too much to worry about. There's not high consequences, just a public shaming. So nothing too much to worry about. But look, to get us into it, man, how are you? What's been happening in the world of Matt Dunstan?
I'm well, thank you. So I've only been back about 6 months. It's not that short a period of time. But getting used to different way of life, different way of living, and just what can I say? It's been a bit of a whirlwind few months and year, and happy to kind of connect with especially both of you. So I was saying just before in the prelude, I went to the Powerhouse meeting and saw one of your podcasts recording live, which was a lot of fun, and slowly getting to know some other designers and game people in Australia. So that's all been really good. And trying to do some work at the same time, trying to design, whether that works or not, we'll see. But I'm well. Thank you.
I know one of the things we mentioned with the in the prelude about the live show is Mike sort of going, Ian O'Toole, he's the best, he's my favorite artwork, yada yada yada. And I think it was Manny, one of our patrons, was literally pointing, he's here, he's right here, and we're like, Mike, he's there. And but it was nice. It was like a fanboy moment. It was meeting your idol, and when they say
you're saying good things, right?
I was saying good things. It could have gone the other way.
It's rubbish or whatever. No, that was cool. That was so fun, and that does feel like forever ago. So was that kind of not long after you'd moved back to Newey?
Yeah, exactly. So it would have been exactly. What was it like? February, March, somewhere around there, maybe. I don't know.
Early April, yeah.
Oh, April, yeah. So it shows how much I penciled in. I'm actually going to give a talk at the next one, which I think is at the end of September, so in about a month's time.
Awesome.
But it's it was good. It was good. I also had where I didn't recognize Ian when we met at the same event. So I'm sorry, Ian, if you're listening, but I wasn't expecting you to be there because it's a bit of a trek. I mean, I know, but now I understand it was because of the Board Game Barbecue convention or game day or whatever you call it that weekend, which I didn't get an invite to. I was very
maybe Ian's thing is just springing on people.
He's just always just testing you. Are you on? Are you? It's like know what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good way to make sure people are saying nice things about your work, is just popping up randomly at different places and be like, hey, what did you say? What did you say? What did you say? But enough about Ian, because congratulations on being nominated for the Spile Des Jahres. That's incredible. Like, is it nearly like crazy and dreamlike that it happened?
Yeah, it was not something I was necessarily expecting. You know, as a game designer, you don't say this out loud very often, but you know, you have some years where you have a game or two and you think, oh, you know, it's in that kind of thing. Maybe it could be nominated, etc., etc. And often mostly you're disappointed because it doesn't get nominated, of course. And this year I didn't really have that. It was only one friend in Germany who had messaged me a bit before the announcement saying like, oh, I think Next Station is really good. I think it could get nominated. And it really was, for me, it was a real surprise. So yeah, just the nomination and everything was really just a really, really nice experience. And I went to the ceremony in the end. I decided to go to Germany because it's like one of those things that, I mean, you never know if it's going to ever happen again. But at the same time, I sort of knew I probably wasn't going to win. I was pretty much like, it was like 95% chance one of the games was going to win, and we were sharing the other 5% between the other two nominees. It was funny because I was with Kasper Lapp, who is the designer of Fun Facts, Danish designer, and we know each other a bit. It was good to see him again, but it was funny because he had gone through this experience before. He designed Magic Maze, which you might know was nominated for the Spiel some number of years ago, and of course that was the same year that Codenames was nominated. So we were sort of discussing that feeling of like you're just waiting for like the execution to happen a little bit. Like you're going through. It's like a really nice kind of weekend, and you've got like a dinner and ceremony, but you kind of know what's going to happen. You're just sort of like going through the paces, and but. Saying all that, it just meant that I could enjoy it more because I was just less stressed. You just sort of like use
yeah, for sure.
When I was nominated for Elysium and for the Kinderspiel, it was just I really thought we could win. So you're just a lot more. You can't relax in the same way. But this was just like you got to really enjoy it and just really enjoy meeting up the other designers. This was the first year for a while that the Kinderspiel was part of the awards, so there were like 9 different games and actually the special prize for Unlock, so there were like a whole lot of just more people than normal, and there's a convention that goes on in Berlin at the same time on the same weekend. It's kind of like maybe the biggest German non-huge Spiel convention, which was also super cool to kind of see that kind of more kind of local German scene, if that makes sense. And yeah, just the whole weekend was just really nice, and just really nice to see people and just chat with the other designers, because you don't, as a designer, you're often just sitting by yourself in a room in front of a computer. So these moments where you get to actually talk with other people in real life is a really nice point.
Yeah, I suppose that's a good point, because it's not like a lot of other jobs or hobbies where you're probably sitting down, and I'm sure there is some collaboration, but designing something is such a solo experience, which surprises me that Mitch hasn't made a game yet because he loves spending time by himself.
Yeah, he's not even here to defend himself.
That's when I do it, because he's like the one member who physically scares me. Like everyone else, I don't really care about. But yeah, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought about that before. Whereas, I work in an environment that's super collaborative. You're spending time with other people all the time. So yeah, I hadn't really thought about that.
It was a very well-deserved award, nomination, because it's a great game. Like a friend showed me when it got nominated. I hadn't played it yet, and a friend brought it over and showed it to me, and I instantly, all right, let's go buy this game, and boom, sold out everywhere. Like you couldn't get a copy, and that's an amazing thing, that sort of flow and effect from that sort of nomination, I think, is a really good thing for the designers. Your game's going to get noticed a lot more and sell out everywhere and make it a hot game to get. So I'm still trying to get a copy. I've got to try again to get it. I'm sometimes getting in trouble for buying too many games, so don't tell anyone. But no, it was a fantastic game, and one of the things I loved about it, I feel it shares things from other games. It is. It's not a huge box, and it's a nice small box. It fits easy to carry around, and it shares some of those really cool things. I'm a very big fan of Gilded Merchant Explorers. It's another fantastic game of yours, and I see some of the similar things, and I love the games like a lot of yours where all the players have the same choices, and watching how everyone branches out and use those same choices to do something different. And it's such a really cool mechanic. I wanted to share. So I was lucky enough to go to Gen Con last year, and that's when I learned about Merchant Explorers, Gilded Merchant Explorers, sorry, and got to play it. Are you aware of the what happened with your game at Gen Con last year?
Did they play a big game like at the game night or something like that?
700 people, I think it was, we played it with. So there was about 700 people playing Gilded Merchant Explorers, where giant cards of your game were being shown to everyone and walked around like, it looked like, when boxing's happening and they come around with a number above their heads.
The ring people,
Yeah.
like how
They
they
had these giant cards walking around and showing what move they're doing. And I've never done that before. And that was such a cool experience, playing this cool new game with all these people. And like, it was really something special, man. It was like a great game to do with as well, because you got 700 people getting the same option to do and going off on all the little branches. It was really cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, AEG really, they like that kind of game night experience. They really have like honed that kind of thing. And no, I'm really, really happy. I mean, firstly, full points for getting the name right, even 2 times, because that, it's a difficult name to get. No, I think I enjoy games where I'm a big roll and write fan. I play a lot with my wife, and we've played, it's probably one of the most kind of played style of games that we do together. And that kind of, like building your own thing, like doing your own thing and trying to make the best of what you've got, and that bit of randomness. And like, I think that kind of combines, a lot of fun aspects into like a small package. And I guess I try and do that in some of my designs. And yeah, exactly. I think Next Station London, it was one of those really fortunate things that in the development, I just used to be a lot more complicated, as was very normal with a lot of games. And then I came across this particular mechanism of revealing the station. That's where you go to, and then that kind of solved a lot of things, and it made the game a lot simpler. And it means that it's much more, the flow is just a lot better. And I'm really still really surprised at how well it's been received. And a lot of people come up to me and say, I played it 200 times, I played 150 times. It's like often aided by Board Game Arena, which has been a big thing for the game as well. And I'm like, you've played it far more than I have, I can tell you that. But it's a special thing when you have a game that has a life like that. You don't always imagine, not all of your creations get that kind of life. So I've been really fortunate with that.
I really wanted to ask, Gilded Merchant Explorers, was it ever a roll and write first before it became a game on the board? Because when I first played, I'm like, I could see this as a roll and write, except for the part of removing cubes again and then having to put them out again. I'm like, if you could rub them out. And a few other people I played with said, I could see this being a roll and write as well. So I wanted to ask you, I was actually really excited to ask you, was it ever a roll and write at some point?
It was not. No, it was always the form that it currently is. It was, it was always kind of like an exploration game, and I think we had the idea of that kind of physicality, and I think also that kind of permanence and lack of permanence with that you have to kind of get rid of all of your explorers every round. I think that was always a pretty core part of the game, and I think we had a physical way of doing it. And I think we were probably quite inspired by something like Kingdom Builder. It does have this kind of form factor that's sort of like in the Kingdom Builder kind of like world, if that makes sense. And so, I don't think we ever thought of having it as a roll and write, because I think I like physicality in games. I like having a bit of a table presence, and I think it's nice to, I mean, I'm with those people who would ask for like slightly larger cubes. I probably would have chosen slightly larger cubes in the game. I know it's can be a little bit fiddly for folks, but having that kind of table presence and sort of kind of seeing what you've done, I think it's different when it's in 3D versus like on a sheet.
I don't mind the Philly pieces. Oh, no. My piece was meant to be on that next one with the corner. No, that's exactly where it was supposed to go.
No, I
Oh,
know.
no.
Oh, my bad. Had you ever played around with people's having individual actions with the game as opposed to everyone having the same actions? Like that, because when Mike sort of said, "Oh, I could see this as a roll and write." With lots of roll and writes, the whole point is, all right, so I roll a set of dice and I get those actions, and then you roll a set of dice and you get those actions. Obviously, it's not a roll and write, but it does kind of have some similarities, as Mike said. So did you attempt that? Was that something that you just said, nah, too hard? Or the fact that it didn't really fit the theme of, hey, you need to make the best of the situation and make it suit you?
No, I don't think we ever thought of having. I mean, you kind of already have that idea of having your own, because you have these kind of special power cards that you kind of acquire over the course of the game. I don't know when they came into the game, because I doubt they were the thing we started with. But I think we always, because there's kind of this core set of actions that you need to have access to. Like if you never get access to explore C, for example, then you're a bit screwed.
You never live in that first island. Yeah.
No, exactly. So I think we knew that the actions had to kind of be shared, and actually, because it's a very, I guess that has been interesting. I think with Next Station and Guild of Destroyers, they're both roll or ice or flip fields, but actually with a very small set of possibilities. Like there's, in the starting deck for Guild of Merchant Explorers, it's like 5 cards or 6 cards or something. Yeah. And with Next Station London, it's like 10 or 11 cards. It's not a lot. So I always like that because it kind of is crossing, like a pure roll and write is randomness, right? Like you're just rolling dice. You have no idea what you're going to get each round. You could roll 6 every turn or whatever. And of course, like something which has no randomness, then there's nothing. But that kind of like that as small as possible randomness as is interesting. I'm kind of interested in that space where you don't quite know what's coming up, but you can you have more strategy about going like, oh, this has already come out. I know that these are the next 2 cards. I can plan my next 2 moves. Oh, what if this one comes before that one? How do I think about that? And I think it opens up, like that's an interesting space that I like to sort of look at, where people can really start to make, like it's semi-random, I guess, is the point.
But there's still like yeah, you're right. I see what you're saying. But all those outcomes are potential to still come up every time, right? As opposed to a die, like you said, it could just be 6 and 6. You know that once that's done, that you've exhausted it, unless you have a special card that allows you to repeat an action or something like that. So yeah, cool.
You got a sense of deduction as well, because when 4 of those normal cards have come out, what's coming out next, or it's going to be one of these 2 cards. So
exactly,
you got that. Oh, okay, well I can start planning for this because the sand cards haven't come out yet, so I know that's going to happen soon. So I might want to lean over this way to take advantage of that once it comes out. Or God damn it, why didn't that card come out? I was about to cross the river to get to that island, and it just gets you angry in a great way.
Exactly, and you need both, right? Because you feel smart sometimes, but it still gives you those moments of exasperation, or like, oh wow, this just happened exactly as I wanted. I needed the C to come out, and then the sand, and then like it's that kind of secret sauce between. Like a lot of people talk about like family games, you need some amount of randomness to feel like that even if you're slightly less skilled, you still have an opportunity to win. I think that's an important thing in these games. I mean, and the total random roll and writes, which are fine, and like then you're kind of gambling against this like very static probability. Like I kind of know what the general probability of whatever is happening, but it doesn't have that thing where you lean into going like, oh, because these are things have come out, now I can change my strategy because I know that these other cards are going to come out. You can't do that when it's completely random.
So the last time, I say we, but the last time I had a chat to the podcast, you mentioned how you find online playtesting, I'm going to say frustrating. So you find it frustrating to do online playtesting. You've obviously designed a lot of games since then, had to do some play testing potentially online. Have you found it more tolerable? Have you found some tricks of the trade that can help you? Or have you just sort of made sure you've had people around you all the time so you can do it in person?
Yeah, I haven't. I did not change my opinion on online playtesting, and I don't do any of the current moment, and I haven't done any for quite some time. which is a bit of a problem in a way because like I've been a little bit of a community in Newcastle, but I still have to kind of find my space and find a good group. Yeah, no, it's just not like it's just too much like work. I think for me that the really fortunate thing about playtesting, with an in-person group is that it's fun. It's like you're going to see your friends. Like it's like a game night, each week that you get to go to. And yes, you have to like prepare a prototype and be ready to, think about things. But it's still, I think, first and foremost, it has to be something you're enjoying going to. And unfortunately, online playtesting for me at least felt a lot too much like work. And that combined also with that it tended to be like late in the evening, and I'm not much of an evening person, and it's just like after you spent the whole day in front of a computer, you're going to sit down at like 8:30 and like as I now talk to you both that I'm straight in front of their computers, but it's hopefully this is somewhat enjoyable for you. It just takes all the stuff I love about playtesting. It's like for me it's a weird kind of I think that's why I know that I was happy. Like I was happy being a designer, and I knew I was sort of in the right kind of work because it didn't feel like work. With a good group, it's just you're just happy to meet up and playtest these games, and like the playtesting is almost just, or like the progress in a game or designing is just like a happy byproduct of that enjoyable time spent together, I guess.
Yeah. I can see that. And there was times where, I obviously when we started this podcast stuff, I was doing online schooling as a teacher, and I could not stand staring at my computer anymore. And people were like, let's play games online. Let's do this. Let's do that. And I was like, nah, I can't do it. Like, even though that was like your one way of communicating with the outside world and chatting to like Mike or whoever, I was like, nah, I couldn't do it. Whereas now, I'm more than happy to jump online and play games because I don't have that overstimulation of staring at the screen. So I can sympathize a lot with you there, Matt, about just getting screen burnout.
I wanted to mention as well, like talking about some of the other games that I've played and I've really enjoyed. We got My Shelfie that came out not too long ago, which was another fantastic game, and it brought back the childhood memories of playing Connect 4 by dropping pieces down one of that shelf. Speaking of Next Station London, I call it the Ghostbusters mechanic, where you can't cross the streams, you can't go over your lines and stuff. I really do enjoy these sort of mechanics you bring into the hobby and changing things up a bit. Is that usually like little things like the Connect 4? I call it the Connect 4. It's not really a mechanic; it's just sort of the way you play the game. But that game could have easily been tiles in front of you. You know what I mean? Without the whole 3D aspect of it. These sort of ideas, have they been things that have been helping with collaborating with the other designers, or have you had these sort of ideas going into it? How have they come about?
Well, actually, with My Shelfie, I mean that's down to, of course, the better Australian designer, Phil Walker Harding, who deigned to collaborate with me. Was happy to take on an apprentice, and I'm very thankful to him. And he actually, the original prototype was dropping marbles into test tubes. And they were physical, three-dimensional, and you would be dropping them in. So it had that kind of theme. But I mean, the mechanisms were broadly similar. But I think he and I think we agree. Like, I think having that, you have to have a bit of that product idea in mind, the aesthetic of a game and table presence. And I think it can elevate, especially for games like that, which are trying to reach a sort of like wider audience, but slightly mass market sort of thing. It really makes a difference having that kind of toyetic kind of feel to the game, or that nostalgia. But also part of that also has to come down to Cranio, the publisher, who changed the theme from that kind of like test tubey thing, and they were the ones who really saw the kind of My Shelfie Kallax-esque kind of grid in front of the players, and I think they just really nailed it with that kind of that aesthetic effectively. And the
really aesthetic worked.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I had the honor of getting a prototype copy of it, and I took it to PAX last year.
Oh.
And mate, everyone wanted to play the cat game. Everyone wanted to play the game that looked like Connect 4, and I happily taught it 10 times in a row. And I was having a great time, but mate, everyone wanted to try it because once again, it brings back that feel of your childhood, and it looks appealing on the table, and it's a game that you're going to walk past and people are going to see and go, well, I want to try that. It looks really cool. And having little board games pictures on there and stuff was really nice as well. And I did a really good job, man.
Yeah. No, thank you for demoing it. Then thank you.
Yeah, Mike was like MVP of PAX with the amount of my shelving that he taught. It was like you would sort of like turn around and see he's teaching like one group of people, then go and like do your own thing and turn back the other way, and then turn around, he's teaching like another bunch of 4 people. You're like, what, did you even have a break? And like, I'll get your coffee, I'll get your Red Bull, whatever you need. But along with your Spile Des Jahres nomination, you've also, the last sort of 2 years since you've spoken to, started Postmark Games, which is a really, really cool initiative. You discussed potentially doing this last time you were on the show. Can you maybe tell our audience like what that's about and then how the journey's been? Because you've released 3 really, really cool, kind of similar in DNA-ish games, but also like really different in their own ways. So I think our audience would be super interested to hear a bit more about that.
Sure. Yeah. No. It's actually, I guess you've kind of, we probably just spoke before it really all came together. So yeah. So Postmark Games, it's a company that we focus on print at home or print at play games, and they're games where we send you the files and you print off. Usually, there's just a single A4 sheet of paper that you print off at home. You need 1 sheet per player, and you'll use at the moment a certain number of dice, either 1, 2, or 3, depending on which game you're playing. And that's all you need, and a pencil or writing implement. And it came about sort of mid-pandemic. A lot of Kickstarters were having problems fulfilling. Listeners to the podcast might know that I have a rather popular Kickstarter which hasn't fulfilled yet, so don't hold me accountable, but it's coming. And with Rory Muldoon, who is the kind of co-founder of Postmark Games, really talented game designer and illustrator and graphic designer based in the UK. We hadn't met in real life. He had kind of stalked me when I did some streaming during the pandemic, and I had kind of stalked him also. He had sort of taken part in this online game jam with Michael Fox on his stream. And I'd seen the game that he'd made that would become Voyages, which was the first game that Postmark Games made. And I was like, oh, this game's amazing. And I kind of sort of reached out and saying like, oh, here's some ideas what I think you could do with the game, how you could develop it. No idea that it was just me saying like, here are some ideas, you're the designer. But kind of from that and some other conversations, we were kind of both saying that we kind of wanted to explore games that we both enjoyed, like smaller footprint games, but we felt that they were very difficult to sell to publishers in a way. And we kind of want to explore, and we're sort of like, well, we could make these games ourselves, but we both also agreed that we didn't want to be publishers and that we didn't want to have to worry about fulfillment or printing or shipping or like I have no interest in that. Rory definitely has no interest in that. And so we came up with Postmark, which was basically to do all the fun stuff about being a publisher, making the game, doing the graphics, etc., without any of the stuff we didn't want to do. And we had our first Kickstarter for Voyages, which was our first game in November, December 2021. And we had a goal of, I don't know if the goal was like £500. I think we were sort of like, let's put the goal of £500. If we get 1,000, even £2,000, because the game costs £4. So we're like, 500 backers, that would be amazing. That would far exceed. And of course, it was like we'd have it. We end up with like 13,000 backers and made like £50,000, which was sort of kind of ridiculous. And kind of from there, like it just sort of kept going. And now we've sort of built up this line of games which not only have that kind of print home aesthetic, but I think have their own kind of DNA of sort of low interaction games. We, kind of being born of the pandemic, they're games which can be played over stream or, like if you're not in the same place, can be played with a big crowd of people. Rory, when you have an incredibly talented graphic designer, illustrator, We've talked about Ian O'Toole. I think Rory is like should be talked about in the same echelons of someone like Ian, and I don't say that lightly because I really I hold Ian as a huge amazing talent in the industry. But when you have someone like Rory in your company, then we're really about how do you make something that's really beautiful before you play it, and how do you make something that's beautiful when you finish playing it. And I like to think that we've been able to kind of do that in our games. And the other really nice thing out of all of that is that we've had a really nice community grow up around the games. There's a lot of because we kind of release kind of assets packs for our games. Like we have people who make their own community maps. Which what I didn't mention actually is for all of our games, because the other thing about Print Home is we can keep releasing content kind of for free, kind of like DLC in video games. So when you pledge for one of our games, you get all the content we're ever going to release for it. So we often, so far for Voyages, we've had 5 maps, a campaign mode. And, when you first pledge, you got like 1 or 2 maps, but you've got all that extra stuff for free, basically, from that initial pledge, or if you buy it from our website. So I like to think we've kind of leveraged, what's possible in this kind of different way of doing things. Actually, you're talking to us to me. We're about to have a kind of an announcement of a new game in about a week, which I can't say at the moment, but it is actually going to be the first postmark game that's not designed by Rory and myself. We're actually partnering with another well-known designer who may have done a quite famous World War II based deck building game. Doing some Print Home things.
Just blink. Don't say anything. Is it Dave Thompson?
Oh, we may or may not. Yes, maybe. Yeah. That's
really exciting, man. That's so cool. And thanks for just dropping that casually on the show as well.
No, so we're kind of branching out a little bit in terms of what we're doing, and because I think that it's funny actually. We were talking the other day about this idea of like a collab. What's the word? Not collaborative. Like co-op. What do you call flat out games? Like the people who made Point Salad, they have a name for what their model is, but it's more of a model where lots of creatives come together and kind of share in the process. It's not like a publisher designer relationship.
Yeah. It's almost like a cooperative, not like a cooperative game,
exactly.
But like an old farmers co-op where the farmers would come together and give their wares off.
Exactly. So I think we're sort of thinking like Postmark could have some aspect that's a bit like that, because we have the kind of we've built up the way of doing it, and yeah, it's great to work with other creatives who have that kind of same, to bring that kind of different form factor to kind of games and share it with our audience. So, we've been really, really fortunate. There are some things we don't really know much about, like marketing and running a business in some ways, but we've been really not knocked back by just the kind of really amazing support that we've gotten from the community. So we've been very fortunate.
No, everyone I talk to just says how great they are and what a great idea it is that you effectively get a game sent to your inbox. It's just such a clever way of doing things. I just thought it was a really cool idea, and like I said, we get on our Discord, people are always talking about Voyages in particular and all that type of stuff. So yeah, congratulations to both you and Rory.
Thank you.
Backing off your answer there and explaining that sort of process of Voyages, circling around to a question from one of our community members, Jace. You've answered some of the question already, but he asked, what are Matt's thoughts and learnings from doing postmark one-pager print and play games, the pros and cons of direct-to-customer and low overhead model as opposed to the more traditional sort of way of releasing games?
It's a good question. Obviously, I covered a few of the pros, like you kind of miss a lot of the headache around fulfillment, and you have no overhead costs and these sort of things. But of course, there are some negatives. Like people aren't going to discover the games by walking past them in a shop. There is no box, there is no physical presence. Even really, like, even if you saw somebody playing at a convention, they haven't got a box sitting by them. You'd really have to kind of pay attention. So in terms of like discovering the games, it's all by kind of word of mouth online. And as I said, like, we're not very good marketers. It takes a different kind of skill set to kind of sell, not even sell the game, really just tell people about it. And we've done a lot to try and reduce the barrier to print and play, because there are segments of print and play that are, I think, very into the kind of crafting aspect of print and play. Like they love like making 300 tokens and 200 cards and redoing terraforming Mars or whatever. But we're very much interested in the kind of the other end of that, which is like, what is literally the least you can do in order to enjoy a print and hope game? Like print off one A4 piece of paper that you don't have to do any cutting. It's just an A4 piece of paper. In order to try and bring as many people into that, who might have been, worried about it or just apprehensive of it. I think you are limited. It's both a pro and con in that it kind of limits the kind of games you can make. I think it's actually a good thing because I think, some constraints is really a really useful way to guide design. I think it's a great way to come up with inventive solutions to problems and to come up with new things. But of course, it means you can't make your 90-minute Euro. It's just a different kind of undertaking. So, but overall, I would say I see many more pros. And I think we've seen like other companies and other designers follow us and do the same thing, and that's really great as well. I love that it's also been available. I remember there was I think a Vietnamese designer who had seen our Voyages Kickstarter, was a backer, and was inspired then to do their own Kickstarter. I think this game was called Shoes
Awesome.
Tactics. And of course that it's from those countries which don't have the same access maybe to big publishers or publishing, or even if they wanted to be a publisher, it would be much more expensive. That's really great. Like, I think that's just, it's helping more and more people be game designers and share their, like the great thing about digital game design in some ways is that not anyone, but if you can make the game, you can then share it. That's not an extra step. You can put it on itch.io or do any of these game jams, and you can have these indie breakout hits, or you can share your craft. It's just so much harder in tabletop to do that. And I think it gives people who are interested in design that ability to then go like, oh yeah, I can do that, and I can share it. So I love that it can bring new people into the hobby, but also into the kind of design aspect of it as well.
Cool. I've got a question from Jonathan, and he's actually talking about Elysium. So he says, I'd love to know how that he came up with the mechanism in Elysium to choose cards by using the pillars. It's almost like reverse worker placement.
That's an interesting way.
In that you are gradually taken away. Elysium is also an underrated game, but does Matt think that there is a particular game of his that is the best or most underrated? So he's asking you to pick your favorite child. Let's face it.
Yeah, well, it's it's like your what is it, like the least favorite child, not just like like which is the one that should get more love from the world or something like that. First to Elysium, actually, interesting enough, that originally the design was kind of even more complicated. You actually had 4 colored dice, not columns, and you would roll these dice, and you needed a combination of colors and symbols that you would get from the dice. And thankfully, during the development, it simplified to just the colors. I think it's been a while since we made it, so I'm not going to. I don't know if I know exactly the kind of breakthrough, but what I do like about it is that it asks you to make decisions at each point of the road, but it narrows down those decisions. Actually, it's funny that you say reverse worker placement, because I think it's actually kind of similar to worker placement in the same sense that your decision space is narrowing as the round goes on, much like worker placement or traditional worker placement, where you have fewer spots as you go on. And this is sort of like you have to. There's that little in between bit of like randomness and control, because you sort of see what's out there. You can't control what the other players might do, but you have that like glimpse of like, oh, if I get away if I give away this color column, then I can take this, then I give away this color. So you can plan, but there's a bit of randomness in the middle of that. So that mechanism kind of serves that purpose really well. I'd love to say that I remember this huge aha moment, but that game went through so many different versions and like wildly different versions. Like it used to be like a kind of like a huge RPG game, and then it was a Euro style game, and it had these dice with this common thing throughout the whole thing, and then it finally kind of landed like a year later on that what would become Elysium. So I don't know if there was like this like one moment where we figured it out, but thankfully we got there in the end. In terms of underrated games, I mean, I don't think Elysium is actually that underrated in a way, because I would say it's one of the more active, like, for example, on Board Game Geek, like if you look at a game that's now, getting on, 8 years old, like the fact that you get a post every now and then is like far beyond games of a similar age. And Space Cowboys is aware of that. They know that. I should say I can say that there may be another game in not exactly, but of a simplified nature within the Elysium universe that may or may not be being released in the next year or so.
Matt, I love that you're not the best at keeping secrets. This is very good.
He's not telling us anything specific, Connor. Okay. He's not being specific. He may or may not be things.
It may or may not, but so we haven't forgotten it, and it's it remains something that is kind of close to us. If I had to think of a game, I think of a game actually. Well, there's a couple. One is Costa Rica. It was a game that was released from Lookout. I want to say 7 years ago. So, no, I don't know. Quite a while ago. It's a sort of a family push your luck tile game. I think the difficulty with the game was that Lookout is not known for like their family weight, like they're the people who do Agricola, they're known for a certain thing. And I think there was probably a bit of a mismatch, but I think the game is sort of like, it's like a classic push your luck. I'm thinking of what's the island game? No, the gold. What's it called? What's the classic Bruno Fedudi push your luck game? Ink and Gold. It's like a geographic.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like a geographical Ink and Gold, basically, kind of, in the sense that. So it's like Ink and Gold, but where you can also screw over your friends by cutting off from expeditions.
That doesn't seem like Mike's type of game.
Yeah, it is.
But so yeah, I think and it's it is just one of those like very clear, simple kind of family games. But I think it just didn't quite. Yeah, like the kind of whole product thing didn't work. So I hope that we'll see a thing. And the other game I would say is Roll for Adventure, which was from Cosmos. And it was a dice rolling cooperative game. And it's kind of like Yahtzee cooperative, kind of like chucking lots of dice. And I really like the game, but it just didn't quite, for whatever reason, didn't quite hit the mark. So yeah, I'd say those two games.
Cool.
There you go, folks. Try to get them played, guys, and let us know if you have played them and what you think about them. But wrapping up from our community questions, Draven, our friend James, has asked a question I also wanted to ask as well. He said the Guild of Merchant Explorers is one of the favorites in their house, but wants to know, are you working on any other guilds?
Do you mean like expansions to it, or
yes, to all?
Because there is only one guild. There is only one guild of Merchant Explorers, isn't it? And they're somewhat sort of amorphous in that we don't really know exactly what they do. They're just kind of there.
They just travel. They like to see things.
Yeah. They just like, we don't ask any questions about what they do. They just like to see things. They're just we'll see. I personally hope so, but it's not completely down to me. But yeah, we definitely designed that game. It's kind of funny. Like I look back on it and I kind of I wish it was a Postmark game because, I would love to, we have ideas to make new maps and I think that system is very versatile. So I hope so. But I'm not sure, I guess is the point at this point.
Sorry? We'd love to see it though, if it does happen.
Yes, we would.
Yeah, fingers crossed here too. Don't worry.
Thank you so much for the chat, Matt. Would you like to join us in talking about some other games as well and what we've been playing?
Let's do it.
Sounds like a plan. Condog, hit us off, man. What have you been playing?
What have I been playing? So the other week, I went home to visit my family and I introduced them to two smaller card games. One that is like, both of them actually are board game barbecue darlings, right? One is Six Nimmt. That I pronounce differently every time, and that blew their mind. They just couldn't quite grok. Like, wait, where am I putting this card? No, where am I putting this card? Why are you putting it there? Why am I taking so many cards? And why are these cards worth more? They're all the same. So that whole process was really, really fun. If you haven't played 16 before, it's really, really straightforward, but chaotic card game that becomes even more mental once you add more players in. Because what happens is you choose a card to play each turn, and you all choose it simultaneously. So you go 1, 2, 3, and you show. Do you say something? Are you supposed to say something when you place the card, Mike?
I think so. You should.
I thought, move. Maybe we should move. Yeah. Like a kung fu fighting sound or something. And then you place the cards on an array of 4 different rows based on their order, starting with the lowest card and then ending up with the highest. But if your card gets placed in a row that has 5 cards already, you have to take the entire row. But the good part is that if you can't place a card in a row because it's too low, you can then replace any other row with that card you want. So if, for example, you're like, the lowest card is 9 and I've got a 1, well, you might want to place that 1 and then just take that 9, because 9 actually isn't worth that many points. The cards that are worth the most amount of points are the 5s, the 11s, and is that it? Are they the only ones that are worth special points? I think off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's like all the double numbers, isn't it? Isn't it like the
so the
11, 22, 33? I think they're really dodgy numbers from memory.
So you don't want them. Anyway, it's really fun, and I'm sure lots of people have played it before, so I won't belabor the point too much. But they really liked it, but they didn't like it as much as Scout. So Scout was an interesting little. I guess my family hadn't played a lot of ladder climbers, trick takers, and all that type of stuff that Scout kind of falls into, getting rid of your hand and all that type of stuff. And when I explained it, they're like, yep, okay, this makes sense. All right, I'm kind of understanding what beats what and then what I need to form. And I said, oh, yeah, by the way, you cannot move the cards around in your hand once the game begins. In fact, at all. And they were like, what? How am I supposed to play this? How am I even supposed to not get negative points? And we started with myself, mum, my sister, and her oldest daughter. And then by the end, her youngest daughter was actually playing by herself and making her own decisions. And what they did, because I sent a message to Sarah saying, I'm going to play Scout with my family. She's like, I think they'll really like it. Audrey and Elsie had made these little tickets that said Mima's help token, so they could go to my mum and be like, Mima, I need a hand, can you help me? And so the mum would help them. And I don't know, they went to mum because mum seemed like she knew what she was doing, which was pretty good. But of all the people in our family, it's normally mum that's asking the most amount of questions, the one that's like, so what do I do again on my turn, and all that stuff. So yeah, that was really, really cool. I just thought I'd take some not easy, but some lighter card games home, because I generally, I'll get a big box game like an Endless Winter or a Distilled or something like that. I'm like, this is so cool. I'm going to take this home and we'll have this big afternoon. But we didn't really have that opportunity that time. So it was nice. So yeah, I got to play that with my family. What about you, Mike? What have you been playing lately?
I've been playing a bunch of games since we last played. I was really trying to ramp up my gameplay because I was trying to go for my most games played in a month.
Yeah,
I'm not going to get there. I did the math today. I need to play 8.25 games every day until the end of August to smash out my record. So I don't think it's going to happen.
Just get some postmark games. Just play heaps of postmark games. You'll be fine.
That's what I should do. I'm up to 62, 63 plays this month, I think. I was trying to get there, but it's all right. I want to hit 100. I want to get 100 games in a month played. Not different games, just 100 plays of games, but it's okay. I want to start this game just with a small story. It won't take too long, but when I first joined the hobby and I got into the game group that I now run, I met two guys who I'm now very good friends with, Tom and Alex. And Tom and Alex thought it'd be a great idea to invite this new guy to the hobby who didn't know what a worker placement was to play Underwater Cities. And I just remember picking up my brain from the table after the game. I had no idea what was going on, had no idea. And since playing Underwater Cities all the way back then, I didn't really have an opinion because I was so new to everything. I was just pretending like I had some idea what I was doing. The game's by Vladimir Suchy, and since then I've fallen in love with a bunch of his games. And Legacy, not Legacy. Oh my god, yeah, I'm getting mixed up now. I've fallen in love with his games, but I'm forgetting what they're called. He's got a bunch of them. I was just trying to say Last Will. I always get Legacy and Last Will confused because they share things. But Praga, Pulsar, all these games I've really, really enjoyed. And so today, whenever their house, I said, "Can we get out Underwater Cities again? I want to try this game again. Just that now I understand what's going on. I want to see how it goes." And these two boys are nearly impossible to beat in games. If you can beat one of them, amazing. If you can beat both, you're doing amazing. But there's something about Vladimir Suchy's games. Like, I don't always think I love Euros, but I don't think I'm that great at them. But there's something about his games that I can just see the path I want to take, which is really rare in a lot of these big games for me. And it gets me excited. And they were laughing at me because I had such a serious face on the whole game because I was really concentrating on my moves. And for those who haven't played it, Def's spoken about it. Def loves this game. But Underwater Cities, you're sort of building a tableau of cards as you play that sort of strengthening your abilities. But you get to add these cards to your ability if you play a worker placement spot of the same color as the card. So they sort of work together. So you're sort of getting led into what worker placement space you want to take by playing this sort of similar card. And you're building up this beautiful board of an underwater city. You're building little dome cities with adjoining roads under the ground and little like
laboratories,
laboratories around them.
Laboratories,
all these different ways of getting points. I won't go into it too deeply, but it's so satisfying watching your city grow, playing these cards, seeing what combos you get, and the whole game, I was nearly double the amount of points from everyone. Of course, everyone caught up to me, but end of game points, I beat Alex, which is nearly impossible, but Tom got me by 1 point, and I was happy and upset at the same time. But it was really satisfying to be a competitor with these guys because usually I'm super far behind. But it just brought back to me because I think Underwater Cities is one of Suchy's like most popular games, and I was like, man, I love this guy's games, but I haven't really played his best one since I've been a proper gamer. And man, it was just so satisfying. And I posted it today on our Facebook page, and we've gotten a bunch of people saying it's such an underrated game. I love this game. It's such a go-to game. If you haven't played Underwater Cities, I highly suggest you give it a crack. Man, so good.
I love this game so much. Oh, it's so fun.
And they've got deluxe pieces for it. So all the pieces are little 3D models and beautiful.
It goes that you can get really nice from BGG. You can get the nice money. So each time I've been like, and the pieces that you get too. Yeah, that's right. So the tokens, so you get the kelp or the algae and stuff like that. It's so good. And the whole action of you have to play a card and play the worker spot, but you can ignore one to play the other. Like it's really, really clever. That dual use card is fantastic, and then having them there, the theme as well, just having that being a marine biologist, I just love having like that underwater theme and then the science thrown in. It always gets compared to Terraforming Mars as well, and for me, I would play this over Terraforming Mars.
I don't see it because I don't see the comparison.
It's a tableau building. It's that side of thing and the combos and stuff like that. But yeah, and the different ages, you go through the different ages, the cards become more powerful. But when you posted that today, I had so much jealousy because I was like, I wish I was there. I wish I was there and played it with you. I just wanted to play another game of it. But I think I'm actually going up to Queensland soon to see Def for his birthday. Yep. I reckon we might get a sneaky game of Underwater Cities. It's just a hunch.
You got to do it. Have you had a chance to play any of these games spoken about so far, Matt?
I have. This is where I get to show off my my nascent Czech because I'm not sure if you know, but my wife is Czech and I have learned Czech. It's Suki.
Yes.
Now I've been corrected. it kind of knows it means dry in Czech, strangely enough. But sorry, just
Underwater.
I love it.
if Vladimir that's the other thing because the other kind of famous Czech designer Vladimir Schvartil. It's like one of these unpronounceable CH in Czech. Sorry, we're now going in a weird rabbit hole, but CH next to each other in Czech is in fact a letter, a single letter, and it's like the CH in lock. That's how you pronounce CH.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, so Schvartil is like Schvartil, or like I'm not even doing it completely correct. Anyway, but yes, I love it. Underwater Singing is a fantastic game, and I completely agree that Suki's games are. I think he's a really like a very consistent designer in terms of like hasn't made like a huge number of games. Like it's not like hundreds, but they're all very good. Like I think, and yeah, I'm really glad how because that's his own company, Delicious Games. That like he started making his own games, and I'm really glad that's kind of been a successful kind of pursuit for him, because it doesn't always happen that when designers make their own games and they it's a different thing running a company. But yeah, no, I'm a sucker for any kind of like card-based Euro game. Like some of my favorite games are like the more Italian, like Lorenzo Il Magnifico and Grand Austria Hotel and things like this. So no, big fan of and Scout is like I'm sad that it didn't win the Spile Des Jahres myself, but I knew it probably wouldn't. But no, I have a copy not that far away from me here. But no, I love playing that very much.
Have you played anything lately, Matt, that you want to talk about?
Well, it's going to sound a bit like, well, a lot of prototypes. But then the other thing is, I'm going to say one of my own games. I'm sorry, but one of my games was released in Berlin, and it's funny, Conor, that you were talking about playing with your family because my parents are very kind of supportive of what I do, but from the sense of, well, I was a scientist before this, and it's a similar sort of level of comprehension of what is actually going on in a way, and so they haven't played a lot of my games. But this most recent game, which is called Pray Another Day, or in German it's called Schnitzeljagd, it's a very simple kind of bluffing game that just got released from Edition Spielwiese in Berlin, and I think hopefully it'll be coming out in English soon. It's a game where every player has 5 cards. Everyone has the same hand, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have a bear, that's the number 1, all the way through to a mouse, which is number 5. And the idea is you're hunting each other, and you have to kind of survive each round. And each round that you survive, you get some food, and it's the first to get a certain amount of food wins. You all place a card face down at the same time, a bit like Six Nimmt. And then you start at the number 1 at the bear, and you ask, has anyone played a bear? And if anyone has played a bear, they reveal that. And if they're the only one who played the bear, then they get to hunt one other animal. So they say, cool. I want to hunt all the lynxes or the 3s, for example. So I'm going to hunt all the lynxes. Anyone else who's played a lynx would then have to reveal that, and they're out of the round. They got eliminated.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
And then we'd keep going down, like who's played a number 2, etc. The other thing is if 2 players had played a bear at the same time, they're still fine. They don't get hunted, but they get in each other's way, and they don't get to hunt any other animal. Once we get to the end of, everyone's revealed cards or got eliminated, then you'll play another card face down, whoever's still in the round. So, like, if I'd played a bear in the first round, I'm going to have to choose another card, and I leave the bear face up in front of me. And so then the kind of options of trying to guess what other people's played is get narrows and narrows and narrows. You keep doing that until either everyone's out and 1 player's left and they get some food, or you've each played 3 cards, and then whoever has the highest sum of cards in front of them. So there's an advantage trying to play the weaker cards because they'll help you win at the end. And that's it. That's all game. And then you gather up all your cards, play another round, and you're just trying to be the first to get a certain number of food. And it's the first game of mine I've played with my parents. I can't even remember how long, in an extremely long time, basically, which was a really nice experience because, and actually I think my mother won, which was sort of, she enjoyed that quite a bit. So that was like quite a special experience for me.
That's great.
Not that, just to be able to share that with them. So yeah, that was kind of experience. And then the other ones are just prototypes, which I can't. I've been pretty forthcoming with information, but I can't be that forthcoming with some of this information.
Well,
All right.
Unfortunately.
we get it. We get it. It's okay. You know, you've got a livelihood to look after, so that's all well and good with us.
Conduct. What else you getting to tell, man?
So, I'm going to do something a little bit naughty today. I'm going to mention a game. It's my Sizzling game, and it's actually going to be a video game. But it's a card-based video game called Inscryption. So, this game called Inscryption is a card game. It's also what they call a roguelite, which means that when you die, you have a little bit of saved progress, but you've got to start from the beginning and then go again. So you start the game in Inscryption effectively you load up the game and then you're taken straight to the table and you learn the game. And the game is it starts off seeming like a fairly simple card battler, but in the end you end up having these complex scenarios and combos and then more and more advanced individuals. So what you do is you have this deck of cards. It starts off really simply to start with. So you start off with 4, let's call them unique cards that can deal damage to your opponent. And then you have these squirrel cards. So these squirrel cards are effectively your resources. They're your mana, because in order to summon any of these more dangerous animals like the stoat, the stink bug that you end up getting, at one point you can get great white sharks. And then there's like even stranger. Like, so there was one that I got, which was, it started off as a pupa, then turned into the chrysalis, and then turned into the Mothman, which the Mothman could do like 7 damage, which is a lot. So it's got this really, really weird kind of horror aesthetic. And you're not really sure what to think of it when it begins. And then, so you're going through and you're playing, and if you've ever played a game called Slay the Spire, it's very, very similar in that you're working your way up these challenges and then fighting these bosses. But what happens is that each time you're defeated, and you will get defeated, the person who you're fighting against, who is at the same time telling this story, they then capture a picture of your visage, and you can use some of the cards that were left in your deck to sort of power those cards up and get different abilities. So I haven't even explained like the base concept of this game yet. So you're playing cards, and your aim is to effectively out-damage your opponent, but there's a scale system. So, for example, you have to deal, cumulatively 7 more damage than your opponent has dealt to you over a series of turns. But you can sort of like, there could be a bit of push and shove, push and pull of like, all right, let them damage me for a bit, and then I'll come back and damage it. Damage them, and then hopefully you've built up this chain of cards. And there's abilities that lots of people who have played card battlers will be familiar with. There's like blockers, there's flyers, so they can jump over your defense. You can have ones that just have really high defense, so they act as a wall. But then there's also these weird cards that you get as well. So, for example, you can get like a caged wolf. So the caged wolf, it can take damage, it can't attack back, but then once the caged wolf has been defeated, the wolf is then let free. So you then have a wolf that can go and attack your opponent. All the while, you're also playing more of a video game where you're searching around this cabin that you're trapped in, trying to sort of solve the mystery of who this person is that you're playing, and so on and so forth. And it's this really creepy aesthetic of this guy who plays against you. He kind of looks a little bit wild and creepy. Once you get to a certain point, you kind of see what he looks like. But the reason I'm talking about it is that the card play itself is really, really good. So it's got this whole mystery side of things as well, which would be awesome. But the card play is really, really fun and really engaging, and you have to really work really hard to work out the puzzles, because it's obviously automated, right? Like you're playing against a computer, so there's a system that you can use. There's a hint of randomness, but you can power up your cards by sacrificing them and then adding that power to another card, so you can end up with these cool card combos. I ended up having it won me the portion of the game, because anytime my squirrels are sacrificed, they came back to my hand. So I effectively had this limitless source of power to be able to summon these more and more powerful enemies. And you've also got these side powers. So, for example, you can use some scissors to like cut the opponent's card so that it's not there anymore. Like it was too powerful. You have like a break in case of emergency, like squirrels or other things. So it's like, oh, I really need some power. I'll break in case of emergency. A few more morbid things that you might use. Like I won't go into it too much, but I'm not going to say any more because it is really interesting. There's a point of the game where it just goes off the rails. And if you've played it, you'll know exactly the point I'm talking about.
Okay.
But then it turns into, it still has the same mechanic, the card battling mechanic, but the game itself just, yeah. Anyway, I won't say anymore. Have Mike, judging by like you're nodding and you haven't played it. Matt, have you
I'm interested though.
Seen or played this game before?
I've played the first level, but I didn't get into it, so
yeah.
I do know of it. Yes.
It took over my life this weekend, which is why I'm like the only thing I really have to talk about is a card game. But yeah, normally I feel like I'm cheating a bit because I'm talking about a game that I played on the PlayStation, but it is a card game, and I've done this before with Marvel Snap. It's not a card game that you and me could sit down and play, Mike, because of the way that the video game mechanics are worked into it. And plus you've obviously got the story on the side about working out who you are and why you're there and all that type of stuff that you kind of get thrown into. But yeah, there's this real moment of like, holy, you know what am I playing again? Like, is this for real? So yeah, if you've got some time, if you like card battlers, if you like games that are a little bit, subverting expectations, definitely give Inscryption a look in because it is well worth your time and it's well worth playing just for the card mechanic itself.
Apart from like you playing against this weird creeper dude that we'll just call Mitch, can you see this game like translating into like a board game, card game that could like PvP with someone?
You could do that, yes. There's a part in the game where it sort of they allude to something like that, but I can't say any more without giving. It's kind of like Sizzling, a legacy game or a campaign game. You don't want to talk about too much because you don't want to spoil it for people. And I don't know if I've spoiled it too much. The only thing I'll say is that it could have legs as to, if it was a Yu-Gi-Oh type of game, which it's clearly taken inspiration from, or Magic or Pokemon. It's clearly taken inspiration from those, but it's also got that Slay the Spire type going up the track mechanic. And then the other one that it's kind of, I think, half inspired by is Hand of Fate, which itself was a video game that was based on cards that then became a board game, I think, which is kind of funny. Yeah. I think was that made by Australian? I feel like it's got a hint.
Australian publisher, Rule and Make was the one who did the.
Yeah. So there we go. There's a link there. But yeah, Inscryption. If you have a PlayStation Plus account, you can play it as part of that, and that's why I got it. But even if it's like $10 or something, grab it. I think it's on like the Switch as well. So yeah, that's my sizzling game for the week, is a card game that you don't actually play on the table. So Inscryption.
Cool. I'll mention two things, including my sizzle. I just want to mention quickly, I played Cicadians First Light. It wasn't my first play of it, but when I played it last time, like over a year ago, it didn't really hit me. I don't remember much about the game that I played, but I remember it was okay, and it didn't really do much for me. But Joe from our community, I went over his place to play some games. They pulled it out. I said, look, let's give it a second go. I'm definitely a person that likes to give games a second go. And hit me completely opposite way this time. Loved it. Had a great game. It's a dice placement game, so kind of like worker placement, but you're rolling a bunch of dice. But the thing that I found really interesting about it is that you're sort of getting a lot of resources in the game. So you're rolling the dice behind a screen and allocating them if you're going to try to farm certain resources, or if you've got to sort of put them in an area that's saying, I'm going to launch these dice into the worker placement area. But the more dice you put on there, you start to have to pay more cost in, I want to say kelp because of that. It was a little seaweed or something. It was some greenery.
It's something from the planet it's on. Yeah.
Green stuff. You have to pay more of this resource to place your dice out. And so you're sort of trying to manage all your resources and get your dice out to gain more points and do all these things. But your dice, essentially in two main parts of the game, get locked away to get points. So it's a bit of a rush to complete certain goals, put your dice in this area, pay a bunch of resources to sort of lock your space in, get access to a special power, and get a bunch of end game points. So it's got a really cool mechanic where in this main part of the game where you're trying to lock dice in, you can only put 5 or 6 dice in each area. But there's these sort of rewards for being the first people to do something. So if you're the first person to play a 1 in an area, you can get a reward for it. If you're the first person to play a 2 in an area, you can get a reward for it. But then as you get all these rewards, these negatives come through. So in the 3 main areas you're trying to place dice, if you're the first person to add a second of the same number, you get a consequence for it. And you have to lose a resource or lose a worker die. But once you put your die in these areas, they get locked away. So there's ways of getting more dice workers throughout the game, which isn't super easy or super cheap. But then as you're getting these more dice, you then have to lock them away to lock in these more points. So you're constantly getting more and less workers, and you never have quite enough you need to do all the shots you want to do, or someone's taking your spots. And it was a really great game, and I'm really glad I gave it a second try, because I think sometimes, depending on the teach that you had or the mood that you're in, or maybe your level of expertise, like how many games you played of a similar nature at the time, I think coming back to games after a while can make such a big difference, because it did for me in this game, and it's happened to me with a lot of games. Like Underwater Cities is another one where I hadn't played it for so long, and it was a hard experience being so new to games. But now that I'm a gamer and I've played many more, I learned it really quickly and had a really good time sort of knowing what I was doing. So that was really cool. I won't go on about it too much, but that was Circadian's First Light. My Sizzling game is a quick, small game that just came out of Kickstarter. I'm kicking myself that I didn't back it, because I was eyeing it off at the time. It's a little tile placement game called Junk Draw. Have either of you guys had a chance to play or heard about it much yet?
But I saw you wanting to. You've got a copy of Junk Draw for
straight away. I've now pre-ordered a copy, so it's coming, and my friend's lent me his copy. But this is a game that can go for 10 minutes, maybe 15. And it reminds me a lot of, without being a flippin' right, it reminds me a lot of Cartographers. If you've liked Cartographers, this is almost like a super quick, super light version of it. It's similar, but not the same. So it's a polyomino game using Tetris-style pieces, which I absolutely love.
Polyomino games, Mike.
We all know. I'm so upset I didn't back it. I'm so upset. But the theme is it's you're scrummaging through a junk drawer, one of your drawers at home. We all have one that's full of just random crap. Yeah, USBs and old pencils and a necklace and
currency
measuring
from
tape,
other countries,
all that sort of stuff. Coins are in there as well. And so everyone starts the game having the exact. It reminds me of one of your games, Matt, because it's one of those games where everyone has the same choice, and depending how you make those choices, sort of you branch off into your own little sort of categories. But you have all these pieces of all different shapes and sizes, and in front of you, you've got 4 squares. I want to say they're each 5 by 5 squares, and there's a red, green, blue, purple, I think. And in the middle of the table are 4 objectives for each square. So square number 1 on the top left might be you're going to get 1 point for every empty square on the edge of your board. And number 2 might be the opposite. It might be I'm going to get a point for each covered square. Number 3 might be something like, what was the other ones we did? We did a hard one, which was get 1 point for each column or row that only has 2 squares covered. So as soon as you cover 3, you don't get to score, which is really hard to do. But all these different sort of objectives, and these objectives are coming from a big wad of different objectives you can choose from, labeled easy, medium, or hard. So you can play a complete easy game, or we played one game with 1 easy, 2 medium, and a hard, just to mix it up a little bit. And the way the game plays is super, super simple. You're going to flip over a card, and that's going to show one of the items. Let's say it's keys. And everyone has to grab their keys, and they put it in one of those 4 squares, going to one of those 4 goals. And you're going to do that 3 more times. But every time, you can't place one of those pieces where a piece is already gone. You have to put 1 in each area, which gets really frustrating, because you might get that 1 perfect piece for one of those areas, but if you already put a piece in there this round, you don't get to put it in there again. And you keep going every round, shuffle the cards up, you actually don't shuffle them up because you put the same pieces back in. You keep going through, bring out 4 cards every round. But by the 4th or the 5th round, there's such small squares that you're filling in. As soon as somebody can't put a piece in an area they're forced to, the game's over.
Yeah, for everyone.
For everyone.
Oh, okay.
So it was really funny. We played one game where one of the, I think, goals were you get, I think, a point for every just empty point in the whole square. And I stuffed up and I got stuck in one point where I had to end the game like in the end of the second round. And everyone was telling me off because they thought I not cheated. They thought I tricked them all because I barely put anything in that area yet. So I just got all these points because I barely placed any tiles in there. But because I couldn't place this one other tile, game was over and I scored a ton of points. So you can sort of play it that way as well. It's super, super simple to teach. I taught my cousin yesterday and another friend of mine who I've just met that barely plays games, and they both picked it up super quick. We played 2 rounds in half an hour, and had a blast. So they just wanted to keep playing over and over again because, once again, it's so quick. It looks really satisfying. You're trying to work on 4 different puzzles at once and try to, figure out if this is going to fit there. And you're working in such a tight space with all these randomly shaped things. It was phenomenal. It was a really good game. That was Junk Draw. It was really, really fun. I believe there's a bunch of places that might have it for pre-order at the moment. I've just pre-ordered myself a copy. But I recommend everyone definitely try to get themselves a go on this game, Junk Draw. It was really, really fun.
So you can effectively rush the end if you think you're in a position of winning. Is that
it's hard to,
in your few plays of playing it, a viable strategy?
I don't think so because you don't know what piece is going to come out. So you can't necessarily plan. Like there's a button, which is 1 square big, There's all these different shapes. You might be able to, if you purposely put big chunky pieces in one of the other areas, but that way of playing probably won't work well for you because that's got its own set of rules. And if you try to do that, you might just score nothing for that area and a lot of points for that one other area. It's about balancing it out and trying to get as many points as you can throughout the whole thing. So I don't think you could do that as a viable strategy, but you could certainly try. Yeah, but that was Junk Draw. It was a really, really fun game.
Sounds good.
Thanks for the game chat, guys. That was awesome. We're going to move over to some other areas, but we've got a couple quick announcements to throw at you guys. The Board Game Barbecue is coming to South by Southwest and PAX coming up in the near future. If you're not aware, South by Southwest is a huge festival that's normally, I think, in Texas in America, and it's finally coming to Australia. That's going to be in October. From the 18th and the 22nd in Sydney, and a bunch of us Board Game Barbecue crew are going to be up there running some events and playing some games with people. They're going to be selling wristbands for gamers. So if you look at the tickets, they are very expensive tickets to go to the whole event. But if you're focused on one area of the event, like gaming, they are going to be selling wristbands that you can get just to attend the gaming area. On the 18th, we will be at Fortress Tavern playing games in the afternoon, and we'll be running a Board Game Barbecue trivia night in the evening there. They also have a tabletop festival on the 21st and the 22nd, which are full days of board gaming, hanging out and having fun with the crew. So if you're in Sydney or want to come up to Sydney for a bit of a visit, the South by Southwest event will be absolutely awesome, and we look forward to seeing you folks there. If you are coming, make sure you jump onto our socials and let us know so we know to look out for you there. And Condog, what's happening for PAX?
For PAX, we will be at PAX again. So we will be there from the 6th, 7th, and 8th in Melbourne. We will not be running our tabletop space again, but instead we'll be there interviewing people, hanging out, still playing games, and hoping to see a few of you there. So if you joined us last year at PAX, we had an absolute blast. It was 3 days of just top shelf fun. Looking forward to going back there this year. And we'll be looking to make some more content while we're there as well. That's the 6th, 7th, and 8th in Melbourne. And just another quick note, the Sydney game day is the 23rd of the 23rd, it says on their run sheet, the 23rd of September. Grab your tickets now. That's at the Castle Hill RSL. So another great day coming up in the late September for all the Sydney board gamers.
That's awesome, Con. Thanks. And from that, we'll go into the question of the pod.
If you're looking for a new board game, you need to check out adventgames.com.au. They have a great range of games, including pre-orders and hot new games. Anything you could be looking for will be there at Advent. Dean provides excellent customer service that is second to none, and he's always keen to support the Australian board game community through events, game days, and even through sponsoring a podcast. So head over to adventgames.com.au today. That's adventgames.com.au.
Last
Let's
week's
do it.
question of the pod was, what is the best two-player only game you have ever played? Matt, do you want to lead us up for this, mate? What's some of your favorite two-player games? Or your favorite?
That is, well, I do play a lot. That is the primary way I play, was with my wife, basically. So just two-player games. I think it'd be hard not to say something like Lost Cities, I have to admit,
Oh,
just
man.
in terms of like, if we're talking about two-player only games, I think, yeah, it's just, I mean, we still play it now, like, 10 years after we've been playing, there's not many games you could say that you pull out and just, you always want to play again after you play one game, and just the kind of the elegance in that. I will say a shout out. I don't think it gets talked about very much anymore, but like the Agricola two-player game is very, very good in my opinion, and is a really great kind of like, if you want like a kind of crunchy Euro experience, but within like 30, 35 minutes, and has a lot of its own little twists on the Agricola formula, which make a lot of sense in two players. Like, it's a really, really smart design, and also has some really fun expansions. So if you like the kind of like engine building kind of variability thing, in the base game you have these 4 special buildings that you're able to build, but then you have expansions which you can add in more special buildings. They start like breaking the rules in interesting ways, and I'd probably put those two as the first on my list. But what about you folks?
I'm glad you said that, though. I've had Lost Cities I've been obsessed with. I only found out about it recently, and obsessed. That is such a genius game. But Agricola, the two-player game, I bought ages ago, and it's been on the shelf for shame, and you've just encouraged me to want to crack that out and give it a go. Conor, what have some of the socials been saying about the best two-player in the game? Or do you have one to throw in there first before we continue?
Actually, one of my options is what someone on the socials have said. So I'll run through Facey first. So Dana has said Taji or Tagi. I always get pulled up on the pronunciation of that. Simple and clean with an interesting tussle for 2. My other one would be Hana Mikoji. Another favorite I played with an old friend that always gave our brains a workout for just a small card game. Chris Ingold said the official answer is Star Wars Rebellion, right? Which is damn good, but I might go for Codenames Duet. Shane has said beer and bread for a quick game. Sorry, however, Star Wars Rebellion for the long haul. Gene said the one and only Netrunner. So that's pretty good as well. And Paul Harold said Onitama, such a simple design, but it works so well. Then from Discord, Jay Benedictson said, shout out to a two-player only game I haven't actually played with another human, but was obsessed with for a while when I got the app, so two-player of me versus the bot, and that's Neuroshima Hex. It's such a cool mix of abstract strategy and tactical skirmish. Stuz has said, I've had a good time with claustrophobia several times. It doesn't get to the table often, but when it does, it's fun when it does. Ben has said, for a quick game of both Hive and Patchwork are the games to go. I've really enjoyed playing motion pictures for a two-player cooperative experience. And if you want a proper challenge, I highly recommend... That's gone. It's not there anymore. So yeah, he recommends something, but I don't know what it was. So let us know. And the one that I was going to mention was Caesar. So Caesar, which I learnt last year at PAX, in terms of a area control game and how easy it is to play, I can't find one that's better. So so Caesar, it's got a little subtitle, but I can't remember. Everyone knows it's Caesar. It's the younger sibling of Blitzkrieg. So yeah, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Caesar, the something or other.
Yeah, of Rome.
That one. I've got heaps of two-player games I love, and I struggle to think of them when it comes to me. But Lost Cities is definitely up there for me. Patchwork I absolutely love. I love Unmatched as a two-player game. I feel that's more of a two-player game, definitely. And the other one I was going to mention was Hero Realms. I absolutely love a two-player. Let's attack each other. Hero Realms is amazing.
I got one more. Undaunted.
Yeah.
Undaunted So good. Such a great card battler. Thematic war game without it being an actual, punch token war game. Just fantastic. But yeah.
So, having a chat with Matt and Connor, we've decided the new question of the pod to ask the community is, what game do you think needs a new expansion? What game do we want to see more content for? We love how Postmark have used the community to bring out new content, their DLCs, if you will, for their games like Voyages. So what games do you think are crying out for some new expansion content? Make sure you jump onto our socials like Discord, Facebook, even Twitter and Instagram these days, and let us know what game you think needs a new expansion.
X, not Twitter. X.
X. That's what you think of Exhibit. X gonna give it to you.
So a game I would like to see an expansion for is I would love to see Imperial Assault, so the Star Wars game for Imperial Assault, but I want them to delve back. I want them to use the Star Wars novels as characters. So the Star Wars novels, they're not part of canon anymore. I'm a big Star Wars nuffy when it comes to this stuff, and some of my favorite characters are from the expanded universe. So I've talked about how I want like a Star Wars LCG campaign game. Imperial Assault, I don't think it's happening anymore. They've got too many tongs in the fire when it comes to Star Wars, but I would love to see some more story content where they sort of divert. It's almost like a parallel universe. So it's like a parallel universe of characters that they'd use. What about you, Matt? What DLC, as you said, would you like to see for games?
Well, it's not really fair because it's a game that's already had plenty of expansions, but I just want another. I want another Race for the Galaxy expansion.
Another one.
Not enough.
Well, it's just like I love what Tom Lehman's able to do with, like, he has like different arcs of expansions that kind of introduces new things, and they've just all been great in kind of different ways. And I would just love. I just want another expansion. I can't get enough of the game. So, it's not a very fair
more
answer.
of the same thing.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I think the interesting thing is that his approach also was that he never thought that that all the expansions should be played together. It was very much about like if you would just use one or two at a time and they'd curate a different experience. I think it's a really interesting way to approach it and to cut it. He was really cognizant of the fact that once you start adding cards, that changes the probability of drawing certain things or certain combinations being available to players. So he never wanted things to get too big, too out of hand, too random. And so I just love to see that next kind of like little snapshot of the game with one new expansion. It doesn't, it's not about making the game big. It's just a different iteration of it almost.
I think for me, Mine, I know it's going to come. I don't know what it is, but I've been hanging out for it. I've just sold my OG Clank with all the expansions because I love Clank Catacombs so much. I really love Clank Catacombs. And come on, guys, give me my new expansions. I want new cool things to happen in there. I think there's a lot of room for some new interesting mechanics in that game as well. And the game is already my absolute favorite Clank game that's come out. But I'm just hanging. I'm hanging for some more Clank goodness in Catacombs. So
there's a second Acquisitions Incorporated coming out, yeah? There's a second Clank Legacy.
It's already backed. I'm not mucking around. That's happening.
I was going to say, I would have expected nothing less from you.
No, my game group, we've that sort of kicked off me having a separate little legacy game group now that we meet up weekly and play legacy games. So as soon as that was announced, which was literally weeks after finishing our OG Clank Legacy run, we said, we're back in that. Yeah, done. We'll put in for it and we backed it straight away. I would back 2 copies of that to play it twice. It's such a fun experience.
All right, just before we move on to our final little bit, I just want to give a shout out to some of our patrons. So Pav, Rainier, Ryan, and Samuel Mason. So thank you, you guys. You all know who you are, and we could not run this show without you. And we're so pleased to have you on there. I attended last night a Jackbox Party Pack get together, so that's something that you get access to if you wish to be a patron, amongst other things, which you can sign up to at patreon.com/boardgamebarbecue. That will let you get exclusive podcast episodes and other content as well, including get-togethers for different parts of our game days. But remember, if you do not feel like donating, there are plenty of ways to support us without donating. You can go to Apple Podcasts and leave a star rating. Dan, last time I was on, got an absolute cracker one from my friend Sub-Zero Joe. That was so good about Arkham Horror. You can use Spotify's new star rating system. It only takes a few seconds of your time, but it means the world to us. You can get involved in the Board Game Barbecue community by joining Facebook, following us on X, Instagram, and YouTube. And of course, there's our amazing Discord community. So many conversations about games and random stuff going on there. At the moment, Baldur's Gate 3 is like the big topic of conversation in the video game section. Everyone's playing that, making me feel super envious and jealous because I can't get it until the end of this week. So yeah, there's all stuff going on. There's a food channel, there's movies, there's TV, and then there's board games and great times to get involved in. So all the links are in the show notes below. But with that, sorry to steal thunder, Mike, we're on to swearing and oath.
Boom, swearing an oath. Now, this is exciting. It's not often that we have a guest on that we can ask if they kept their oath. I think we save it to last, Connor.
Let's save it to last. Because
we're going to save it. Do you remember what your oath was?
No.
Oh, I was going to let that sizzle there. I was going to let it sizzle.
Simmer. This is slow cooked oath.
I will kick us off. I'll kick us off.
Hey, watch what you call me. Watch what you call me.
I failed my last oath of playing the others, I believe it was. And so I added onto that oath to play the others and to play Zombicide with the boys' characters. And I would like to say that I successfully did both. The others have been sitting on my shelf of shame for like 3 years. And I don't know why it intimidated me to get off the shelf. And that's why I swore an oath to play it. It's not that hard. And I think I was worried. Someone talked it up for me, and I think I was worried about that disappointment. You know, when someone tells you a good TV show and you want to like it and you're worried you're not going to like it, I think I had that vibe going on. But I played the others. It's made by Simon. It's got similar-ish vibes to Zombicide, but it's a 1v all game where one person is playing one of the 7 deadly sins versus a bunch of people trying to take him down. And man, it's amazing. I really, really like it. It was I've played it twice now, and both times were an absolute blast. It's really hard trying to balance playing the sin character. It's really hard trying to take everyone down. And I had one success, one failure so far. I'm liking it that much. It might be a future sizzle, I think. So I'm not going to talk too much about it right now. The boys' character packs for Zombicide. Oh my God. We played yesterday and we had an absolute blast. All I'll say is that the theme of the boys gets mixed in really, really well. When you play if anyone hasn't seen the boys TV show, it is pretty crazy. It might not be for everyone, but you're playing with like superheroes. And the superheroes in the game have a special superpower at the start of the game straight away. So because it makes the game easier, you have to add a bunch more zombies into the game. So we were getting swarmed and taken out big wads of zombies all at once, and it was an amazing big blast. Highly recommend if you're a fan of that show. It gets you right into that theme. I actually used it to introduce a new friend to Zombicide yesterday who is a big fan of the boys, and he found it really thematic and really enjoyed it, and so cool. It was awesome. But I have successfully done those oaths. My next oath is to play a new game that just came in that I'm very excited for. It's The Witcher Old World. Yeah. I'm a fan of the TV series. I'm a fan of deck builders. The game looks amazing, and I recently got a copy of it. So I'm really excited to try it. But I've actually decided to add an extra oath on, even though I don't have to. I'm feeling guilty that I'm sitting here with Matt today, and I'm one of the backers of Voyages. I backed it, and I was so excited to get a Kickstarter straight away, and I printed it, and I laminated it, and it went on the shelf, and I never got it off. And once again, I think it's that hard thing that there's no box to sort of remind me. It's a couple pieces of paper on the side of my thing, and I even bought like new dice just to have spare to play these sort of print and plays to encourage people not have to dig through other boxes to get dice. And I'm feeling guilty here. I'm feeling guilty.
I have a hint. Get into Warhammer, you'll always have dice.
Or D&D. Or D&D. So I am tacking on. For you, Matt, today, I'm going to tack on that I will also play Voyages by the time I'm next on the podcast.
Thank you.
Condog.
Yeah, well, I'm going to follow up your super successful oath with a not so successful oath. So mine was to start the Scarlet Keys campaign for the Arkham Horror living card game. And even with Sub-Zero Joe's like incredible oath that you made Dan make by making read a review, I haven't done it yet. For me, it's something that I need to do over a long weekend because I've got to build my decks, I've got to choose my characters, all that type of stuff, set it up. So I will do it. I kind of, maybe I can take a sick day from work and take the Friday off and do that. Maybe be, sick by some eldritch illness. But we don't rest on our laurels here. I'm going to add two, but one's going to have a proviso. So if it arrives before I'm on the show next, I will play and begin a campaign of Oathsworn. So that's supposedly coming soon. I haven't got a notification from any deliverers to say it's coming. It's because I don't know if it's through Aetherworks or whatever, but I'm hoping it'll be here soon. I'm on the show again in like 2 or 3 more weeks, so it may or may not happen. But if it doesn't arrive by then, I will also play a solo game called Reckland's Run that I got before I went on my trip to Europe. So I kind of divine swear the next time on the show, I will have either played Reckland's Run or, hopefully even better, Oathsworn, something of the deep wood.
Awesome. Looking forward to hearing about it.
Yeah.
And Matt, your suspense is over. Your oath was to finish your food-based game. I believe it was something about flavors. You had a food-based game. It's not released yet, I don't believe, but has it been created?
No, I haven't finished it, sadly. It is still on the in my defense, I have moved countries in that interim time. So I think I should get
all the defenses we've had, that's the most valid, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think I can give you a freebie.
So I could renew that oath that I will endeavour by the next time I'm on the podcast in another 2 years' time.
You'll make two food-based games.
Well, let's just get one. One really good one. That's good enough.
Like it. Look, Matt, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And before we let you go, are there any other announcements or anything you want to plug on the podcast tonight before I let you go?
No, nothing in particular, except just to say, if you want to see the Postmark games, you go to our website, postmarkgames.com, all one word. You can tell I'm not much of a marketer, and I've only just remembered, but I have remembered, so I'm better than most. But yeah, and I'll also be at PAX as well. It'll be my very first PAX. So if you do see me, do feel free to come and say hello. I'm always happy to chat about games or play something. So yeah, I'll be around. And showing off a new game, actually, which I will be announced soon. But yeah, a new narrative game with Dave Neal, who was my co-designer on Echoes. So yeah, something to look forward to.
Awesome.
Fantastic. The barbecue will definitely catch up with you at PAX to have more of a chat about that, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Definitely.
Fantastic. On that note, thank you again, Matt, and thank you, Connor, for joining us tonight.
Pleasure as always. It was fantastic, Matt. Thanks for the chat.
Thank you.
Awesome. That was awesome learning a bit more about the games that we already enjoy. So that was a bit of a treat. So I really enjoyed that. So thank you everyone for listening. Go and play some games.
Yeah.